Welcome, everybody who's listening. This is Dan with Living ADK, the sponsor of Old Forge Farmers Market. And today we are going to be interviewing Jen from Slate Creek Farms, who is an Old Forge Farmers Market farmer and has been for many years. A reminder that the farmers market is now ongoing all summer long, Fridays from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. So thanks for joining us, Jen. Just please start off and give us a little bit of description about Slate Creek Farms and who you are as a farmer.
Well, my name is Jen Rankin, and I am the owner and the founder of Slate Creek Farms. And it started out to be just a homestead, and I raised for people that asked about it. And it morphed and it has become a full-fledged actual business. And I believe in our animals live the most natural lifestyle that we can provide them and still have a product at the end that is tasty. And the pigs, they've got in the summertime, they've got a mud wallow. They can get down in there. They have access to trees. They've got access to grass, pastured. The beef is grass fed, and and everything's outside. Wintertime, they do just had my sows just had babies for the next little bacon seeds that you're going to see later that won't be ready till the end of summer, but they have hit the ground. So those guys, obviously, with wintertime, we move them inside so that they can be warm. We can take care of them. We are getting ready, gearing up here pretty soon, raising meat birds. So there'll be chicken available for the summer market coming up. And we've got a few still left. And we also raise lamb as well. And that is also grass fed 100%. And we rotate them through on pastures and stuff, giving them access. Every day they should have they have fresh grass to get onto. So that's a little bit here. It's pretty organic in nature, I guess. The animals do what they do best.
I think you did a pretty good job of describing organic. Can you maybe talk a little bit more about what it means to be an organic farmer? Like, what does that actually mean?
Okay. Yeah, to use the term, so most of my marketing, the term organic, because there is people that are certified organic. That's a whole different set of rules. But our pledge is to be organic as possible. So we don't use pesticides. We don't use any type of hormones, steroids or antibiotics or anything like growth hormone type thing. Nothing like that goes on the animals. There is a difference for people who are certified organic. That's a whole nother set of process that they have to go through yearly, and it's quite expensive. And for our area, my neighbor grows beautiful hay, and in the wintertime I buy from him. He doesn't spray anything on it. So it's technically organic, but because he hasn't certified himself, if I was to be certified organic, I couldn't buy his hay. And it is important to me, not only by quality feed for my animals, but that I'm supporting my neighbor who is growing beautiful stuff. And if that is the food source that my animals need in the wintertime, I want to be able to purchase that. I want my money to stay in my community. And so, like, the grain I buy is from a local mill, and they mill it. They're small. They buy from the local farmers here, but they do not have the facility to be able to separate the organic feed from a conventionally grown feed. So that is why I have not certified to become organic, because there's a few sources that I would also need them to do their part. And that for raises, it raises the cost of everything. It's something that I truly admire, those people that they have in their community the ability to do that. But right now, what I've been able to find for sources, I don't necessarily, but our pledge is to be organic, meaning that we don't, like I said, I reiterate before, they are not, we don't add antibiotics to their feed. And that is where you get into real problems where you have antibiotic. You were to test the meat, that it shows up that it has antibiotics in it. We don't do any of that. We try to raise them, we're raising them to be healthy based on the grass that we're growing. Just them walking over our land, it helps stimulate seeds that might have been laying by them grazing through. Their own manure is the fertilizer, and everything just keeps on growing. And it's kind of this continuous cycle. If we do one part right, the other part should be right. So I hope that explains a little bit as to why you're not going to see that I'm not certified organic, but my practice is organic, if that makes any sense.
Definitely. That was a great answer.
Okay.
That's a great answer. Talk to me a little bit about, if you're an animal on your farm, kind of from the animal's perspective, what does a day in the life of an animal on Slate Creek Farm look like?
Well, first thing, they're usually greeting me because I never, waking them up with breakfast, and right now today's a warmer day, but for the winter time, it's a little bit, it's tough, I guess, tougher on the farmer, because we've bedded them down with fresh straw, and they've got hay, they got plenty of food, but we have to haul the water because pipes are frozen. And so carrying bucket by bucket of water, we get a little stronger in the winter time. And so they see me a little more often because of trying to keep them filled with their water so that it is not frozen and they can drink it. So they quite often, and of course, and right now we're getting into early spring, so we've had lots and lots of babies. So we're probably bothering them more than they were happy snoozing and munching away, and we're checking to see if anybody's getting ready to have their babies, and probably but and the only yeah, I mean, and I've got some older girls, an older sow, and she just kind of hangs out. But yeah, she would like me to find her a grassy patch right now. She's hanging out in the barn and got her straw bed and stuff. But and she wants her treats in the morning, and she just wants to know when the grass. She's tired of the cold.
She sounds like I have a dog, Dinosaur, that's probably 11 years old, and yeah, he's where's the food? Where do I sleep? And anything else I don't really care.
Right. I mean, that's pretty much they talk to me a little bit. I mean, the pigs are definitely more personable, and like the beef, or the sheep are there. We've got a bottle baby, so he hears us and he's like, oh, you came with my bottle, because his mom's a little bit older and doesn't seem to have quite the milk for him, so we're supplementing. But so then those ones, the more you handle, the tamer they are. But yeah, they get like these really big dogs is what they are, just like I do. And heaven forbid you left a gate open, because then they're like, oh, well, let's just go check it out and run over and duck food or the chicken food, which is and make a mess of that and stuff, or get into the chickens are starting to lay. But I have one sow that she's always looking to see if she can get out of her pen, and she knows where the chickens lay, and she'll go over and try to get eggs before I can get her back in and make a mess of that. But but she has some really beautiful babies now, so I'll give her a pass right now. She's probably getting tired of them.
Yeah, mamas can do what they want because they're probably exhausted from their days.
Exactly. She's got a bunch of little piglets, and like I said, I think she's probably getting to the point of having enough of them, but she just wants to go be by herself and just munch away. Nobody's sticking their nose in her food dish. So if she can catch, the eggs, like for pigs, eggs are like the a kid's getting into your candy drawer, your snack drawer.
Oh, they're
They
not supposed to be there, but they really, really want it.
they because I sell the eggs, which pays for the chicken's food and stuff like that. And I like to have eggs to eat too. And so if she goes and, raids everything, all upset for one, then eggs she didn't get, they just broke them. She can make quite the mess of things,
You can be a
and
bit
plus,
piggy.
yeah, plus a 700-pound pig trying to get into a chicken coop is not a good thing. It just makes for things.
It's pretty funny, pretty good picture. I can like picture myself on, the 700-pound pig like busting through the chicken coop door.
Like, I don't know what your problem is. I just wanted to get some eggs. But yeah. So, and her name is Mildred, by the way. So my breedings, the animals that stick around as breeders and stuff, they usually end up with the names. Even though I say I won't do it again. I won't do it again, but I do. They end up with names. Um, and so that makes it hard when they are no longer useful as a breeder because you know they come with, when you call them by their name, most of them will come, and that's the part that makes it really hard being when you're raising pigs are super smart and they just have such personality. If they weren't so delicious, we wouldn't raise them because it's just hard. They're just they just tame down, and they're just a whole different animal and to deal with versus beef, or or the sheep for that matter. The sheep, they all kind of, those ones, they seem, at least in my opinion, in my experience, they'll kind of stick to their own thing to do. They don't get tame like that. Maybe if they were a dairy cow or something where you're milking them every day and handling, they would. But for pigs, no, pigs get really tame. They can tame. And anytime I have a group that's like, are just literally jerks, I always tell them, I'm like, the jerks are the ones we eat first. And I have no problem with that. But
Be warned.
be warned, once you become a jerk, you are out of here. But yeah, so some of my girls, yeah, so I always hope that they will stay with having good litters and being good moms, and we don't have any problems because it makes sense for them to stick around. But usually by that point, they're my friend, and it's really hard to send your friend to be made into sausage.
Yeah, I'm sure that there's more than a couple of stories of sort of pets
Oh,
or people like that is difficult. And on that subject, do you
mm-hmm.
all do make the products right on your farm, or do you partner with other local people to do the slaughtering and the production and things like that?
They go locally to be slaughtered. So to sell, unless you were to buy a whole animal, there's ways. I mean, some people, I don't offer like on farm slaughter. Um, so I will trailer them up. They have to, in order for me to sell by the cut, like where you go on my website and you order a pound of bacon or a package of pork chops. I had to USDA have that USDA slaughter, so it had to be inspected. So I have to go to a processing facility, has an inspector and has the licensing to do that, to package it for me, that it's been an inspected carcass. So, and I have found a place that is, they only have like about an hour ride in the trailer to get there. So that's been the closest place. When I first started out, before that, closest place to me was like an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes. So I've been very happy with my the processor that I have now that is closer, and they, for the most part, have done a really good job. So um, that's been good. But yeah, in the very beginning of all this, when I slaughtered those on farm. Um, but I didn't do that many. And then as I've grown, you know, it's hard. You need to have a couple people to help you um, to get it done. And so many people want, instead of a whole bird, they want cut ups. And so I now I'll take the birds down to a facility that's licensed, and will they they vacuum pack them. So the packaging was better than what I could do on the farm as well. And I take the chickens there, and it's mostly because I just, as people have loved the product and have, you know, and bought more, and I've grown it, I don't have the time to butcher myself because I used to do it all myself. And but I just don't have the time. And then to meet up with raising the animals, because we last year we did batches of like for the chickens, 100 at a time, because we have a very, to be quite, we pretty much have a short growing season because I get the chicks in as a day old. And so the first couple of weeks they're under heat lamps and stuff, which is, is always the scariest part. I'm down at the barn a lot when heat lamps are going on, because it's just really scary. If anything were to break or come down, you could have a barn, everything. Um, so, and then we want to get them out onto grass and fresh, get them outside as soon as possible. I think it makes for a healthier chicken. I think our end result of what we're looking for is a quality chicken product to eat. We have a more nutrient dense meat because they've been outside enjoying the sunlight. Hopefully we won't have a wet spring because rain and chickens, that's just not a good combination. We end up with problems and have to bring them back inside. We try to, like I say, raise. Oh, did you just email me?
Oh, that was a while ago. Sorry, it probably just
Oh,
took a
all
little
of a
while
sudden
because
it just popped up. So I'm sorry. And now I probably just messed up your thing. I
oh,
thought, oh,
you're good. Like I said, this is all stream of consciousness, really. It's I
oh,
like the flavor that you're giving me. This is perfect.
okay. So, but anyway, with the birds, and really with all the animals, that's, we want them outside. We want them on fresh grass and stuff. And there are times like when we have terrible weather and stuff, luckily we have some barns we can move them back into. And we have made, they have outdoor shelters too for summertime and stuff, so they can get out of, bad weather. I've read studies that supposedly animals that are grown this way, and it makes sense to me when you think about it for our own bodies. If we go out in the sun, we have the ability to produce vitamin D, which is stored in our fat cells. And our animals have they have the same ability. They need that just like we do. And so when they're grown like that, you have, at the end of the day, I would love anybody who has any connections. I would love to test some of my own products to see if I am achieving the nutrient density of the vitamins and the minerals in those meats and the proteins that my goal is to achieve. And it's living like they're supposed to live.
Do you is it your experience that that other smaller farmers in your area also have the same standard of quality and sort of and focus, or does it really vary a lot depending on who's running the farm?
Yeah, I have that, some that are just up and starting and are learning. I mean, I'm still learning. We learn every day, every season we tweak something, because it's like, okay, will this work better for our animals to be more comfortable, the less stress? They will we should have an overall a better product at the end. Um, I feel that yes, there's quite a few ones that I've met, and yes, there's a handful of ones that are just they're take shortcuts. And what I found is that they don't stay in business long because their end result product isn't. They might be cheaper than me, and I always tell you're obviously everybody has a choice, and you can choose. You can go try it and look, but you know, but before you say, well, you're expensive and that person is so much cheaper, compare the product, compare apples for apples. Each package of pork chops or each package of bacon, is it the same quality? And I think you'll see that it's not the same quality, because you can't take shortcuts, just like for us. You can't, if you think you can get away with raising on, uh, say, day old bakery products. You're going to have fatty meat. It's not going to be nice, well marbled meat. It's not going to have the flavor. It's just not. And those animals I've seen, and they don't do well. Or, I've been to some farm. I have yet to see, and not that I've been to a lot. I mean, let me back that up. There's not a lot of people that I have personally met in my area that I could go see how they're raising their pigs. Because you'll see, I've seen advertisements and stuff at farms that they're completely, they're certified organic on their pork, and they're doing it like just with produce and no grain involved at all. Pigs pigs aren't the same as a cow that will be able to take a pasture and chomp that down and turn that into muscle and fat. They need other sources of protein. So if you had maybe a nut orchard you could run them through or something like that, that might be different. But there's a lot of articles out there that kind of give the impression that these animals are raised just on grass alone. And for pigs, I've not found that that's possible. You have some hungry animals, and then you have animals that are out, and they're looking for food. And that's I don't want my animals. I don't like hungry animals. I like them well fed and growing like they should grow. And I feel at the end of the final day is, when they go to the processor and then we get our product back, is to see the quality of the muscle that's there and the amount of fat. Or I want a certain amount of fat for good marbling, for good flavor in pork. But animals that I've seen where people have tried to raise them on day old bread products, for instance, instead of buying them a quality grain product, they have a lot of fat, very small muscles. And to be quite honest, the animals didn't look too healthy when they left either. And so I try to educate people. There are those that want to learn and didn't know any better and a little differently, and show them the difference, if they want it. Not everybody wants your opinion on stuff. But in our area, the people that are selling how I'm selling, whether it's by the cut, and I do offer, like, you could buy a whole pig and I can get it processed for you, cut and wrapped, and it's all in your freezer, which is the most economical way to go. They are feeding them well. The ones that have been around are. Like I said, I've, in the last few years, those that haven't done following and you don't have people willing to buy your product, you kind of go out of business. So I've been very fortunate, and I have I've had some really loyal customers, and it's helped me grow. And word of mouth is how it helped me grow. That's how I grew. As I had more orders, I raised more animals. First had pigs. I raised a few, one for my own freezer, a couple for friends, and then I had a terrible time trying to get piglets, so I'd kept a piglet that I'd gotten, and I raised her up. And so she was my first sow. She was like, she'd be the great grandmother of the sows that I have right now. And I kept a few from her litters and I sold the piglets. And now I'm to the point that I don't sell piglets. Whatever the ground is I'm raising up, I have enough people buying that I don't need to sell the piglets.
So you've kind of turned the corner to the next step.
Right. I started out, like I said, it was very much just a homestead thing. And then people really liked it. And at the time I had a piece of property that I was trying to get. It hadn't been used as a farm for many, many years. So the pastures were rough. They weren't really good enough for like beef cattle. The pigs were great because they would root and could bust up some of the vines and stuff that were growing through there, so we could get some decent grass to grow. And then, other things. I ended up getting a divorce, and so I lost that piece of land, and then I moved, and I've kept going. And this land that I'm at now is much better pasture wise and stuff. So it's been easier to then grow the amount of animals that because the grass was already established. I could get more beef on there. And I have and I offer veal. That was just actually during the pandemic when dairy farmers were being, told to dump milk. And one that's very close to me, they raise really nice animals and they were getting nothing for their bull calves. That's unfortunately, that's the thing for the dairy industry. So I partnered up with them. I'm like, if we could keep them on, you're having to dump the milk anyway. We can give that to them. And we have a product, and they do a nice job raising their animals. I feel like they keep them very low stress. Those animals were born there, they're raised there, they got their mom's milk. And we ended up with a really nice product to offer. And I know there's a lot of stigma around veal calves. You drink milk, this is part of the result. And the cow has to get bred. She has to have a baby in order to produce the milk. And those babies are bull calves, and you only need so many male calves. And they are quality animals. And yes, their lifespan is shorter, but they shouldn't be thrown away. Like, if we're going to bring them into the world, at least feeling is, let's do the honor of trying to use every part that we can. You don't get one without the other. So you're not going to be able to have milk and cheese and butter and things like that if these calves don't come into the world. So the ones that aren't going to be used back into the dairy industry, let's raise them up. And they're a good source of meat. And especially the veal calves are super tender. So especially for older people, if they have a hard time chewing, you can get some really good food into that is nutrient dense, that maybe for somebody else they can't necessarily maybe eat a steak. Maybe it's too tough, but a veal chop is probably perfectly tender enough that they could then enjoy, even though it's not quite doesn't like beef like we're used to, because there's a difference between a 6-month-old calf and a 2-year-old or a 1.5-year-old steer that we get steaks out of. But they are going to have at least some of that flavor. And with the veal, when it's raised how it's been raised, you don't have to bread it, and you don't have to put a ton of spices on it. This has good flavor because it was well fed from the beginning. So
it's really interesting, honestly, as a a layman or a civilian or whatever. Like, hearing that about veal is interesting because it's not something that I've ever had anybody explain to me. Like, hey, we've got to breed these animals to keep the milk and get the milk products. We've got a population that it needs to be used in some form or fashion. They're animals we've got to raise. That's really intriguing. I'm sure a lot of people will be interested to kind of delve into that a little bit. sort of, you kind of
Yeah.
had brought up like a chain that you had bought, you buy your hay from your neighbor, that which
Hmm.
is next door, that about an hour away is who you bring your animals to slaughter. Maybe
Hmm.
you can go a little bit into, I don't want to say the food chain of your farm, but like, the input products and kind of the output products, like, how does some stuff come into your farm from where, and then, ultimately where does the most of it end up? Is it you are distributing it on your own? Does it somehow go to a grocery store? Does it somehow go into your CSAs exclusively? Kind of walk me through that if as best you can.
Okay. Um, well, okay. So for feedstuffs, like my neighbor, I get hay from. Uh, I do grow some hay on the farm, but last year especially was a terrible year for hay, so we had to buy in. So it comes. So we get from him. When I need for grain and stuff, I go, like I said, I use a local mill. They're in Vernon Center, and they will mix, and they're buying from local farmers. So right there, everything's staying in, say, Oneida County. Um, I go to Lewis, it would be Lewis County, which is, like I said, an hour away, where I have them where I have the animals slaughtered. Then I'm going to, so he's paid there. So the monies that the costs um, for raising these animals and running the farm have left New York State. And they haven't even left 100 miles of the area. So when, like, we had to do some barn repairs, or a year and a half ago, we built the new mobile chicken coop for the laying hens. Um, Literally right down the road, I went to the lumber mill, and I bought directly from them the supplies that we needed. Now, some of those, obviously, wherever they ordered came in on a truck from somewhere else. But I rarely go to a big box store to buy things that we need for the farm. We usually have found somebody's close by that can, whether it be, even if it's when we're building, we had to do some repairs to corrals because of a big pig, about 700-pound pig, that decided that they didn't like the area they were in, and they literally busted through and cost a lot to get that repaired, because of course the pandemic had just hit, and what should have been a couple $100 worth of lumber was about $500 worth of lumber. So I had no problem for her to go get sausage, because again, the jerks get eaten first. So
I
and
love that.
we went, so I the local there's an Amish sawmill not too far from us. So I went and was able to get lumber there, because I couldn't get lumber even from the local place here just down the road. And they didn't have what I needed. And at that point, even I'd been told that if you went to like Lowe's or Home Depot, that they didn't have stuff like that either. So for a big box, so it was so great that I had somebody that was in my, literally just down the road, that is sawing their own trees and stuff, and I was able to buy it, and we were able to get the corral repaired where she had broke through. And so then, from when I've raised them up, so at that point, and they've gone and been processed, I bring them back, and they're by cuts. And I do have, where sometimes when I pick them up, somebody's already ordered it. I had it cut how they asked me to have it cut and packaged. I deliver it to them. So I will do the deliveries. When I take a group of pigs out for the people that have ordered, I usually then, when I know that they're going to be ready, to try to make a day where that seems to work for everybody. And then I go pick up the finished product, and then I deliver to them their pig that's all been cut and wrapped and smoked for whatever the items they wanted smoked or sausage made, and deliver there. What isn't already ordered comes in my freezers here. And then I have a website and you can order, and you can either do farm pickups. I do offer a few places where we have meetups, and I do home deliveries on those days that I have the meetup in like the Clinton area, New Hartford area. On Thursdays, I come up to Old Forge on Fridays. I've been trying to schedule it pretty much twice a month, if there's enough orders to come up to Old Forge. So either, and like I said, I work with Cindy sometimes. Like she's got a customer that just wants a couple packages of bacon. So I will see her. I'm going to hand off the order to her, and she's going to put it with what her customer had already ordered, and combine that and deliver to them. So that's how my product's getting around. I have shipped product. Sometimes I've had local customers that have asked me to ship it for a gift to their relatives at, the holiday times. During the winter months, I feel the most comfortable to ship. It is also, for cost-wise for people, it is the most cost-effective to do it in the winter time because we need the dry ice issue. In the summertime, we need dry ice, and then we got to pay for like next day air, or else, there's a possibility that things will be thawed, depending on how the distance, how far it's going. But I have even, and a few years back, I was in the Severe magazine, local. She spent the day with me, and we rendered lard, which is a byproduct of raising pigs. And I jarred it up. And because of that article, I got all kinds of people contact. It was really fun. And I shipped some lard all the way to Alaska. That's the furthest I've ever shipped. I haven't gone to Hawaii yet, but I've gone to Alaska. So some of Slate Creek Farm has made it to Alaska.
Holy cow, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, it was awesome. So that was fun. But yeah, so the money, I don't know if I'm explaining it quite right, but what I spend on running my farm rarely really leaves our county.
Which is really huge and speaks to the importance of local farms and what they bring.
Right. Because I don't know what I would do if I didn't have my neighbor who is a hay farmer raising some really quality hay that I could get to when I'm running low on what we raised. And then, the people, the Amish farm that's not too far away that has the sawmill, that I was able to get the boards that day so I could fix the hole in the corral that she had broken through, and was, then had everybody out because they all followed. So yeah, and then I have like the local in Holland Patton here, we have the farmers co-op. And so I can pick up fence posts there sometimes, but they'd been low, and I'll pick up things there. So and that money stays again in our county. It's not like when you go to Tractor Supply, that goes to a corporate somewhere, wherever their corporate headquarters is. That's where that money goes. But these are all people that are also paying taxes that help our school function, because they're paying their school taxes, and they're, our county taxes and things like that. And it all helps. And so we kind of all need each other in order to make this all work.
Absolutely. And maybe anecdotally, have you seen more smaller farms or pushes in your area? I guess if things gotten better for small farms since you started, or has the trend been going in the opposite direction? I mean, do you find that people are more knowledgeable about local farming and supporting their farmer, or do you
I
think that it's kind of the other direction?
Well, I would say for me, what I've seen and also for some of my other friends that farm and do, like there's a dairy farm up the road that I partnered and we did the veal calves together. Um, and I carry there on my website, for so especially if I'm doing deliveries on a day, if somebody needs a couple gallons of milk or some of their cheese, they can order it right on my website. And so we tried to help each other. But would say I have had new I was how would I say I've had new customers in the last 2 years. I think that's the one plus I can say of the pandemic was that people were like, oh, well, is there a local farm that I can buy from? Because they were afraid to go to the grocery store. They went to the store, there wasn't what they wanted there. And they started realizing, and I would say so far, probably I've had probably 75% retention of those new customers, and they're coming back and they're not intending to go back to buying just from basically, I would say corporate America. They're looking at, okay, if you don't have it, because I'll try to, if I don't grow something, I'll try to find out who does and does a good job at it and get people to them, because as a farmer, we all have to help each other because we probably, whether it be if the person who stopped and picked up milk from the farm, if they swing by here and pick up some meat, now you've just supported two farmers in your area.
Right,
And
it's like a compounding additive sort of effect.
and the other thing too is that has I would just want to mention with the pandemic and people were home, I've had great conversations with people that are like, hey, I've always wanted to make this, whether it be even something as simple as soup stock or bone broth, whatever you want to call it. So I've given them the recipes and stuff and to do that. They're like, well, I'm home and I can actually do that. And some of those people they were able to dive into a little more of cooking and not just, pork chops and sausage and stuff is a very quick, some chicken breasts are real quick dinner items. But there's other cuts of meat and other parts delicious, but you need a little more prep and you need a little more time. So a lot of people have they started because they were cooking from home. They kind of got tired of the same old thing. And so I've had great conversations with people that are expanding their horizons and wanting to cook, something different. So more people that have like stocked their freezer, they made soup stock with some bones that they got from me. And those are all healthy things. And if you were buying that same box of broth from the grocery store, it's like $5-6, I think, the last time I priced it. And even if you go and get the one that's made out of grass fed, the bones were used from grass fed beef, that's like $10 for a little jar of it. You just made a whole pot with probably, 3, 4, 5 quarts, say, at the end that are in your freezer ready to make something. And it really didn't cost you that much. So some people are seeing that once they learn a few different techniques and how to do, they've got better quality ingredients to cook with and to make a quick meal. And at the end of the day, there's no salt in any of that. There's no preservatives. It's flavorful. They can make something, like I say, that's quick and easy after they've done that part. I mean, that's not that it's hard to do. It's just usually when I do a pot, it's got to simmer for like 2 days. So, and then you've got to strain it and do. So sometimes that gets a little intimidating for people on tight schedules and that we're working, out of the home. But if you're home, you can kind of do a smaller batch, and you can, you could get it strained, and you can get it in your freezer, packaged up, and it's ready to go. So they're getting different cuts of meat that are less expensive, because they're learning how to actually cook them and to make something that's delicious and healthy. And a roast you can get a couple meals out of. You can do different things, but you have you have to jump in and do it, and learn the technique, learn some techniques, and just start experimenting and doing it. But when you don't have time because you're always at your office, like I said, that was the nice thing, is people were able to work from home and stuff. You could start a roast, and then you're like, okay, well, like in 2 hours I need to add this to it. Well, you were home, so you could do it. And so I've had great conversations with people that are like, oh, like, I wish I would have known how to do this, a long time ago, because it turned out so good. And so that part has been fun. I think that's for me, because those are things that I like to cook. I like to try different things, and I really am a big, if I took that animal up, I don't want to have things wasted, whether it be the lard from the pig that I render down, and so that you have something to use in place of a Crisco, like, so you can make your own like pastry and things like that. And you would have used Crisco, or I had this beautiful lard that's perfectly healthy for you. But it does take time. You've got to render it down. I've, got to strain it and jar it up, and then it's good to go. But also there's, the parts, whether it be the bones to make the soup stock and stuff. I hate to have those things be when I took the life of that animal. And I really think, a lot of people, you hear the term nose to tail. Well, then you have to be willing to try to learn how to cook some of these other parts. If that's what you really want, you want nose to tail, then this is what you have to do. You
Right.
have
You
to,
can't just say, oh, this is what I want.
yeah,
Put the
like
work in.
like you on this, oh, we're nose to tail. Well, go look on the menu, see if it has something beyond pork chops on it. There's some in our area that are great. Taylor and the Cook, Modus are a couple that have bought things from me, and they've done some great charcuterie with it. That were things that I'm like, oh, like how, like I wanted to know how they were going to do it, because I'm like, I was so interested that there's a way to use pigtails or pig snouts or something like that. And they did, they do great things that, and those kind of restaurants, if you, they really do, they do what they're advertising. They do buy from local farmers and stuff. And they aren't just bought one time and said, oh yeah, we buy from local farmers, but the rest of the time it all comes from, some commercial place. No, we have some really great restaurants in our area that truly are a farm to table. They're not all maybe nose to tail, but they are farm to table. And then there's some that if you go and look, they'll take some of these unusual parts and try to make something delicious out of it. So I tell people, like, be brave. If you see, say for instance, I don't know, head cheese, which is all, I know it's kind of a gross name. And I think that's why people are like, oh, I don't want to try that. But it is some beautiful cuts of meat, basically scraped bone and made into a terrine or a pate. And then it's sliced very thin and served. And it's a way to use up all these parts. It's perfectly edible food. It's just a technique in order to use it, because, we need to, if we're going to say we're nose to tail, those parts need to get used up. And so like head cheese would be, if you, you have the jowl from the pig, and which is delicious. And you'll see on my website, you can order jowl bacon. So I have them take the jowls off. They're cured and they're smoked, and then they're sliced. If you were in Italy, and actually some of our restaurants that I mentioned there in Utica, they will buy fresh jowls, and they will cure them, and it's a basically a salt and sugar cure. They're not smoked, but it's the Italian form, and it's guanciale. They'll make guanciale out of it, which is it's jowl bacon. So in America, we smoke it. Our bacon is always smoked, but it is delicious, absolutely delicious. So anyway, and so going back to like the term head cheese, that is everything from the head of the pig. So it'd be the jowl, there'd be some the collagen, and it's going to be sliced super thin and usually served with some mustard and on like nice toast points, and it's sliced really thin. So you have all of those meats in there, and you have all of the collagen, which is very good for our joints too, by the way. So it's like, don't be afraid, try it. You might not like the texture, or try it, because you just don't know. Like I always said, oh, I couldn't eat liver. And then I was somewhere and I had this most delicious pate, and that is cooked liver, but with spices and different things. And it was so good. I don't turn it down now when it's offered at all. I'm like, oh no, I'll try it. Now I just have to myself, I have to learn how to make it. Because I have yet to perfect it to be as good as I can around here.
You kind of went silent there for a second, just towards
Oh,
the end here, Jen.
okay.
That's better. Okay, I don't know if it would just change the microphone or something.
Maybe my laptop is old. And now that the pandemic came, apparently there's problems with buying, electronics. So
now you're stuck with what you're stuck with.
that's right. So
So Jen, just to wrap it up, I think we covered a lot.
yeah.
And I think I've got a lot of great information. The one thing maybe you could give me would be if I was a customer that was looking to purchase your products, both, I guess, at first year round and maybe in the summer and then maybe in the winter, just maybe where could I get those products and how would I get those products?
Oh, okay. Well, that for year round, because that is the one nice thing for I'm not a vegetable grower. I grow meats. So they're frozen. So year round, you can go to my website and you can order. You can order by the cut. You could contact me. And then you can either choose a farm pickup. In the summertime, there's more options for picking up because I do farmers markets. So you can go, I'll bring your order with me and you can pick up from those locations. So I'm a little more limited on farm pickup because it needs to, I try to do it when I'm here. In the wintertime, you can do you can do farm pickup on pretty much any day because there's usually somebody around. And because it is winter, I do have a setup to be here. I can put your order will be with your name on it in a cooler. So if I'm not going to be here, that to go to that cooler and you'll be able to pick up your order. But yeah, you can do everything online and let me know where you'd like. And you have options for each week, like to pick up or even have home delivery. In the summertime, when it's so busy, and we are so busy between the markets that I do and trying to get all the chickens and the ducks and stuff raised, because it really the summertime, the spring through early fall is my growing for those animals. Anyway, I don't do as much home delivery. So the wintertime, I have several days that you can just select for home delivery if you choose, that I try to go to those areas on that day and do home delivery.
Well, thanks again, Jen, for taking the time to speak with us today. I know that I learned a lot, and I'm sure that everybody else out there listening, got an education as well. Thanks again. See Jen as well as the rest of our farmers at the Old Forge Farmers Market every Friday from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. for the 17 weeks in the summertime. And this is Dan with Living ADK. Thanks so much, everybody.